The Panagyur gold hoard is a Thracian, antique, gold vessel set consisting of 9 vessels with a total weight of 6,164 kilograms. It was discovered on December 8, 1949, 2 kilometers from the town of Panagyurishte, by Pavel, Mihail and Petko Georgievi Dijkovi. The set is believed to have belonged to a ruler of the Odrysian tribe of the late 4th and early 3rd centuries BC, and was used for religious ceremonies. Its style and decoration combine Thracian and Hellenic influences. It consists of 9 golden objects, 1 phial and 8 rhytons. Such vessels of precious metal are symbols of social status and were used in ritual actions of the Thracian priests. The representation of gods and heroes, heads with negroid features, sacred animals and mythological creatures in antiquity had a ritual function. They were supposed to purify the liquid and protect those participating in the ritual. Amphora Rhyton gold, height 39 cm. Diam 14 cm. Weight 1,635 grams. INV. Number 32. Borders on the mouth, frieze with intertwined palmettes and lotus flowers. Egg-shaped body, without stand, foot. Wide figural frieze. In the center is a double door flanked by Ionic columns with lion-headed capitals and winged sphinxes at their base. Around 7 male figures. On the right is the figure of a bearded old man wrapped in a long robe and leaning on a staff. The rest of the men are warriors, naked under their throne cloaks and armed with swords. One of them has a small beard, a staff in his hand and high shoes, and watches the oracle. Another with a horn signals an attack on the door. Between the closing wings are seen the heads and hands of an old man in hiding. The frieze is separated from the ovoid base by a palmate line. Below the handles are 2 negroid heads with open mouths like spouts. On one side, an old strong man carries a cantharos. Next to him stands Heracles with a wrapped hydra. The center is filled with a 5-leaf rosette. The handles are in the form of upright shooting centaurs. Their hind legs turn into fluted handles. The front legs rest on the rim of the amphora. 2 letters are engraved on the inside. Fiala gold, height 3 cm, diam 25 cm. 845.5, INV. Number 3204 around the hemispherical umbo, protrusion in the center, is a border of small rosettes. Wreath of 24 acorns. 3 friezes with enlarging African heads, a total of 72. The neck is engraved with the value of the phial 200 statas 1/2 drachma and 1 obol according to the coin system of the city of Lampsac, located on the Asia Minor coast of the Dardanelles. The gold of which the phial is made differs in composition from that of the rhytons. Rhyton with protome of a goat gold, height 14 cm, diam 9 cm. Flaring mouth with outward projecting profiled rim decorated with an acorn frieze. Below, figural frieze. Hera seated on throne. holding file in right hand and ends of cloak draped overhead in left. Left and right. Artemis and Apollo with bow in hand. Behind them, Nike with outstretched wings. The names of the gods are engraved next to their heads. The lower edge passes into the protome of a goat with curved horns. The eyes are plastic modeled. The opening is between the outstretched legs of the animal. Stag's head Rhyton gold. Vis. 13.5 centimeters. Diam. 8.8 centimeters. 674.8 grams. Handle. Lion with paws on mouth. At its base, a female head. The horn is shortened and completely covered with a relief figural image. Seated Paris in Phrygian costume holds shepherd's gag in left hand. He raised the right one to show that he had made his choice as to which of the three goddesses was the most beautiful. They are arranged around him. Next to him sits Hera on a throne. To the left sits Athena with sword and helmet. On the other side, Aphrodite, her face shining radiantly because she won the race, wraps her hand around her mantle. Paris is designated by his original name, Alexander. The names of the goddesses are also engraved. Stag's head Rhyton gold. Vis. 12.5 centimeters. Diam. 8 centimeters. 689 grams, similar to the previous. D. Frieze. 2 symmetrically placed mythological scenes. Theseus fighting the Cretan bull on the Marathon plain and Heracles with the Cyrenian cow. Goat's head Rhyton gold. Height. 12.5 centimeters. Diam. 8.5 centimeters. 505.05 grams. Same form as E. It ends in the half figure of a goat. The fur consists of a dense row of etched, concentric circles. A seated Dionysus holding a scepter can be recognized on the horn frieze. Next to him sits the nymph Ariope. Both names are engraved. On both sides, dancing maenads with trumpets and thyrses. Anthropomorphic jug gold. Height 20.5 centimeters. Width 12.1 centimeters. Max. Diam. 8.36 centimeters. 387.5 grams. A narrow mouth curved outwards. A short neck passing into the upper edge of the helmet. A helmeted female head forms the vessel. The helmet is decorated on both sides with 2 crouching griffins in relief. Between them, an engraved palmet. An elongated face has correct features. Curly hair emerges from under the helmet and falls on a neck damaged in the excavation. At the beginning of the neck, a lion's head. The handle is in the form of a fluted column on which sits a sphinx with outstretched wings. Its front paws are on the edge of the mouth. The body of the sphinx is decorated with palmets. Anthropomorphic Kana Rhyton gold. Height 21.5 centimeters. Max. Diam 10.5 centimeters. 460.75 grams. Expanding mouth curved outwards, around the neck. The Valchitran treasure was found in 1924 near the village of Valchitran, Pleven district, and is the largest Thracian gold treasure discovered on the territory of Bulgaria. While digging a vineyard, the largest gold treasure known to Bulgarian archaeology was accidentally discovered, consisting of 13 vessels made of an alloy with the following composition: gold 88.15%, with natural impurities of silver 9.7%, copper 1.74% and iron 0.4%. Its total weight is 12.5 kilograms of pure gold. It consists of 13 objects. 7 are in the form of caps of various diameters and elongated bulbous handles in the middle, resembling percussion instruments' cymbals. One vessel resembles a cantharos crater with greatly elongated and side-curved handles and weighs 4.5 kilograms of pure gold. 4 are deep cups with upturned handles, with one cup being considerably larger. There is also a trifoliate vessel, composed of 3 almond-shaped bodies, connected to each other by tubes and a common 3-branched stalk, so as to form a system of jumping vessels. The treasure is located in 2 large groups. The first contains a large golden cantharos cup with 2 handles, weighing about 4 kilograms, as well as 1 large and 3 small kiatos cup with 1 vertical handle. The decoration of the vessels is relatively poor. It consists of embossed edges with diagonally cut longitudinal handles. The first group of vessels has been studied in detail by archaeologists Andrew Sherrod and Timothy Taylor. They point to parallels from mainland Greece. These are grave number 4 in Circle A of Mycenae, where a similar silver cantharos was found, and also a gold cantharos accidentally found at Thebes. Other similar vessels are part of the treasures from Rudeni, Romania and Kryzhovlin, Ukraine. The 3 finds contain cantharos and drinking cups. Similar covers are part of the collection of V. Boshkov, without information where they were found. The treasure is dated to the end of the Bronze Age, i.e. to the 16–12 centuries BC. It is assumed that the vessels were used for religious rituals performed by the Thracian priest kings. The famous Rogozen treasure was discovered in the Vratsa village of Rogozen and is the largest silver treasure in our lands. It weighs more than 20 kilograms and contains a total of 165 silver objects, some of which are gilded. According to experts, this is also one of the most significant ancient treasures found in southeastern Europe, which has represented Bulgaria even in the Paris Louvre. It is amazing that it was discovered by chance, in a vegetable garden in the center of the village, and not long ago, in 1985. A local resident decided to dig a water pipe in his yard and suddenly, only 50 centimeters below the surface, an incredible sight opened in front of him. A pile silverware, numbering 42 jugs, 22 phials and 1 glass. For some time, the discoverer kept them in his home and even used them. But slowly the rumor about the treasure spread and he handed over the found objects to the employees of the Thracian Historical Museum. The archaeologists continued the excavation and soon discovered another 100 silver vessels. Thus, the total number of objects of the Rogozen treasure reaches 165 silver vessels, of which 54 jugs, 3 cups and 108 phials. This is twice as many phials as there are all the phials in museums in Europe. There are several versions about the owners of the treasure. The most likely is that it belonged to a noble family from the Thracian tribal tribe, who lived in these places. According to experts from the museum in Vratsa, it was collected for many years, from the 5th century BC to the 40s of the 4th century BC. According to archaeologists, the rich site shows that a strong Thracian state existed on these lands, and its rulers ruled a vast territory beyond the borders of today's northwestern Bulgaria. It is likely that the objects of the treasure were acquired in different ways: as booty, through commercial exchange, or as diplomatic gifts. As evidenced by inscriptions from the rulers of the Odrysian kingdom Kotys I and his son Kurzblept. The decoration of the objects found depicts many scenes from the religion of the ancient Thracians, in which the great Thracian goddess occupies a central place, represented as the mistress of nature and especially of the animal world. On one of the jugs she rides a lioness and is armed with a bow and arrow. There are different theories as to why the treasure was buried in the ground and in 2 places. The most common version is that it was hidden during a military conflict, Philip's campaign in Thrace, 339 BC, or the Great Celtic Invasion, 279 BC. One of the most interesting vessels is the phial representing the myth of Heracles and Igvae. The discovery of this vessel, produced in one of the studios along the Aegean coast, proves the active contacts of the local Thracian population with the rest of the ancient world. There is a vessel that is supposed to be the work of master goldsmiths from Persia. On the vessels from Rogozen, the great Thracian goddess is shown, accompanied by her sacred animals. She is represented as the mistress of nature and the protector of the animal world. Therefore, on one of the jugs, she is riding a lioness and is armed with a bow and arrow. The jug has a tumbled body, tapering towards the bottom, on a low conical seat. The conical neck has an outwardly drawn mouth edge. The transition is highlighted with a relief belt. The handle is band-shaped and is attached to the mouth and the widest part of the body. Centering point on the bottom. The decoration consists of horizontal bands of ovules joined by lamps, separating the body from the neck and decorating the stool. The handle, grooved in the center by longitudinal grooves, is joined to the mouth with volutes, and to the body with palmettes. The bottom is decorated with 3 equally spaced edges. On the body is a relief scene composed of 2 antithetical motifs. A goddess seated in a winged chariot drawn by 4 winged horses, driven by a charioteer. In the right quadriga, the female figure is dressed in a heel-length chiton. She has bare feet and plaited hair falling to her shoulders. In her left hand she holds a file and in her right a blossoming branch. The female figure in the left chariot is wearing a knee-length chiton, holding a bow in her left hand and an arrow in her right. The mythological plot reveals the divinity of the characters is emphasized by the wingedness of the horses and the chariots. Their attributes, clothing and hairstyles indicate their different status. They probably embody the 2 female statuses, virginal, left, and matronly, right. Perhaps the jug was used in the celebration of the 2 goddesses, thought of as mother and daughter, who on that day meet. In the female figures, the body and face are frontal, although the movement is to the side. Attention to genre moments. Faces are elongated, features are stylized. Schematic transmission of the details of the image, through which a decorative effect is also created. The Borovian hoard is a Thracian hoard from the 5th–4th centuries BC, consisting of gold vessels decorated with animal protometames and mythological scenes, with inscriptions in Greek, to Kotis of Bios. The treasure was accidentally discovered by Trycho Stoyev in 1974 in the land of the village, today's town, Borovo, Ruzansko, in the Sivri Tepa area. When ploughing, the tractors bring the ancient objects to the surface. Archaeological excavations are being carried out around the site, but no settlement remains or burial mounds have been found. This gives full reason to call the discovered objects treasure. The treasure consists of 5 gilded silver objects, 3 Rhytons, a Rhyton jug and a pouring bowl. Inscriptions related to the Thracian king Cotys I, 383–359 BC, were found on him, and it is assumed that the whole set was given to him by Thracian rulers in the city of Bios, where there was probably a sanctuary. According to one of the most widespread hypotheses, the reason for his burial is connected with a devastating earthquake that destroyed the capital of the Getae, Hellas. It is believed that they placed the precious objects in the ground as a sacrifice to propitiate her. Another hypothesis, expressed by Professor Ivan Marozov, supports the claim that the burial of the treasure has a ritual meaning related to the transfer of power in Thrace. The objects are hidden in order to be found, but not by anyone, but only by the one who possesses the necessary qualities to become king. The Borovo treasure consists of 5 silver vessels, a poured bowl, a jug and 3 zoomorphic Rhytons. They make up a ritual service. On 3 of the objects, the jug and the Rhytons with the protome of a horse and sphinx, there are inscriptions in Greek, which are an abridged version of the following text. The vessel is the property of Cotys, donated by the city of Bios. Archaeologists and researchers are of the opinion that the treasure was donated by the Thracian king Cotys I to an allied ruler of the Getae tribe. The jug has an egg shape. It was used as a Rhyton. This is evidenced by the traces in its upper part, where there are remains of and a small hole drilled at the bottom, from where the liquid flowed. The wedding of the god Dionysus and Ariadne is represented on the jug. The depicted scenes on the body of the jug were interpreted by Professor Ivan Venedikov and Professor Ivan Marozov. According to Professor Venedikov, the upper frieze represents the walking tears of Dionysus addressing the feasting deities, among whom the professor identifies the figures of Orpheus and Eurydice. In the lower frieze the deities themselves are represented, with a central role given to Dionysus and the goddess, probably his mother Semele or his wife Ariadne. They are surrounded by 2 Eros and Selines who are participants in the feast. Another interpretation is made by Professor Ivan Marozov, who suggests that the scenes are related to the mysteries of the Kabirs, interpreting iconographic similarities with some vases from the Theban Kabirian. According to him, the upper frieze also depicts a Dionysian procession with a markedly elevated licentiousness characteristic of the world of natural. The lower frieze represents the marriage between the goddess and the ruler, the so-called act of hierogamy. Hierogamy is known to be a climax in the mysteries of the Kabirs. Professor Marozov is of the opinion that the Borovo treasure is a set with a cult purpose and was used in mysterious practices. The silver bowl is of authentic dimensions, gilded on the upper edge. The base of the massive handles is made in the shape of the heads of mythical creatures from the retinue of Dionysus, satyrs. The cup represents what one gets as a result of one's tireless work. This Rhyton has a long fluted horn ending in a protome of a horse. Between the horse's legs is a second small opening for pouring the wine, shaped like a lion's head. The mouth of the horn protrudes outwards and is decorated with a row of lesbian cummerbunds. Below it runs a strip with a plastically rendered ivy wreath. Vertical grooves follow, covering the entire horn. It is shaped like the figure of a running horse. The proportions and volumes of the equine figure are well articulated plastically, and the movement of the horse is conveyed with a good knowledge of organic dynamics. The ears are turned with the opening forward, as is typical of the Thracian animal style. Mythological plot. The horse is one of the most common animals in Thracian iconography. The Thracians themselves are called by Sophocles, horse lovers, and in Homer they are among the horse tamers. The bull-shaped Rhyton has a long upward flaring fluted horn ending in a bull's protome. Between the bull's legs is a second small opening for pouring out the wine. The mouth of the horn does not protrude outward. A notched stripe runs below it. Horizontal grooves follow, covering the entire horn that enters the protome. It is shaped like the figure of a kneeling bull. The proportions and volumes of the animal figure are well articulated plastically. The ears are turned with the opening forward, as is typical of the Thracian animal style. The head is separated from the body by a strip of stylized curls, a concept adopted from the Persian artistic tradition. The bull symbolizes male strength, great wealth and success. Sphinx protome Rhyton, an exquisite item finished with a winged sphinx protome. The figure of the lion woman is depicted extremely precisely. The face is surrounded by hair gathered in a bun. The chest is covered with feathers. Around his neck, the figure wears a necklace of beads and leaf pendants. The Sphinx is a symbol of dignity, royalty, wisdom and power. The Thracians believed that by drinking ritual wine purified through the mouth of the Rhyton, they would acquire the qualities that the animals and mythological creatures depicted on them carried. Since ancient times, Bulgaria has been home to the greatest master jewelers. Today, several millennia later, we marvel at their works. We are famous for the oldest processed gold discovered in Europe, as well as for the unique Thracian treasures. Although not as famous, but just as exquisite and wonderful, is the greatest treasure from the First Bulgarian Kingdom, namely the Preslav Golden Treasure. Although shrouded in mystery, it is one of the most precious finds from the Bulgarian Middle Ages. Like most found treasures, this one was discovered quite by accident. In the fall of 1977, an agricultural field in the Kastana area, 3 kilometers from the second Bulgarian capital, was plowed by tractors. The following year, workers from the then TKZS went to plant a vineyard there. In agricultural activities, a few centimeters below the surface, objects of yellow metal stunned the women. The workers came across a large necklace, many ornaments and coins. Each of them took what they found home, but word of it quickly spread, and soon local archaeologists, along with the militia of the time, went to the homes to collect the objects and question them. As soon as they found out about the site of the discovery, the agricultural activities were stopped and archaeological research started by a team of Professor Totu Totev. The search area was about 400 square meters. Excavations revealed that a poor settlement existed there, most likely a suburb of Veliki Preslav, which was abandoned or burned down. This gives reason to attribute its concealment to the 10th century, most likely during the capture of Preslav by Sviatoslav's troops in 969 or the Byzantines in 971. During field excavations, it becomes clear that the objects were placed in a coffin or bag in the stone stove of a poor, half-buried dugout. The tractors destroy the house and damage a large part of the goods. Since metal detectors did not exist then, the dirt was sifted by hand. More than 120 gold and gilded ornaments, jewels, medallions and ornaments were discovered. Dishes, clothing accessories, precious stones and coins were also found, the latest of which are Byzantine, of Emperor Roman II. This makes it the largest medieval treasure discovered on our lands. The pinnacle of medieval goldsmithing is considered the double-sided necklace from the Preslav settlement, dating from the 10th century. It weighs 227 grams and consists of 7 strung double-faced tiles on which there are trapezoidal images. They are connected by finely woven golden braids. At the lower end of each tile are soldered rings, from which descend delicate chains, terminating in drop-shaped medallions, which are also 7 in all. Each tile is decorated with a different image. Apart from them, other chains, ending with pearls, are lowered onto other rings. Various designs are depicted on the tiles and medallions using multicolored enamel. The end tiles at both ends of the necklace have floral ornaments. These are followed by tiles with highly stylized birds holding a branch in their beaks. The next two tiles depict palmettes. In the ancient East, the composition of birds and palm trees formed the two sides of the tree of life. On the central tile is the image of the praying Virgin, or Virgin of Varanta, who has her hands raised up, and on both sides of her there is a cross. The images on the medallions are the same, but with a different configuration. In the middle is again the Virgin of Varanta, but on either side of her follow two medallions, with birds depicted on them, and the last tiles on each side are with palmettes. Besides the large amount of items, the Preslav treasure is unique in its processing. Most jewelry is made of 14 and 22 karat gold. Various methods of production were used, such as embedding pearls and other precious stones. Granulation and the specific jewelry technique of cellular enamel, which is very expensive and luxurious, and the possession of such jewelry is extremely prestigious. There is no evidence that it was practiced in the capital Veliki Preslav, but it was widespread in the imperial court, which gives historians reason to assume that most of the gold items were produced there. One of the most mysterious items is a signet ring made of gold and rock crystal. On its upper side, one of the most revered events in Christianity, the Annunciation, is depicted. Among the discoveries are several types of appliques with plant elements, as well as gold pendants. A considerable number of earrings were found, which are ornaments attached to women's tiaras, made of gold and decorated with emeralds and pearls, as well as finely crafted medallions and precious stones. The most important find is the discovered diadem, or rather several parts of it. It is about 5 out of a total of 9 alleged tiles that she composed. Even if not whole, its artistic value elevates it among the monuments of our cultural heritage at the world level. As with the necklace, each has a different image here. Of the 5 preserved, 2 of them depict griffins, mythical creatures between a lion and an eagle. Another 2 of the tiles also depict similar animals, only senmuvri, dogbirds. The 2 mythical creatures are arranged in a move left and right. The 5th tile, which is supposed to have been central, depicts one of the most common medieval scenes, the Ascension, or also called the Flight of Alexander the Great. On it, Alexander is depicted on a chariot, which is also drawn by the mythical creatures griffins. In the Middle Ages, the image of Alexander the Great showed power. The big question is, whose are these treasures? Most historians assume that the collection was a gift for the wedding of the Bulgarian King Peter I and the Byzantine Princess Maria Irina, which took place in 927. First, the cellular enamel technique was peculiar to the Byzantine imperial court, and probably jewelry of such workmanship was peculiar only to royalty. Since in the Middle Ages diadems were head insignia, i.e. objects that symbolized power, it is believed that the diadem from the Preslav treasure was worn by Queen Maria herself. This is also supported by the image of Alexander the Great. a symbol of power, in the middle of the diadem. The ownership of the double-sided necklace is disputed. Most agree that such an exquisite jewel was only suitable for a woman of fine proportions like Princess Mary. Others believe that it was worn by the wife of King Simeon and associate the find with the Golden Age. Today, these finds are kept in the Historical Museum of the city of Veliki Preslav. There you can enjoy up close the craftsmanship of medieval jewelers and see live part of the only crown of a Bulgarian ruler that has reached us. A gold treasure from Nad Street Miklos was discovered in 1799 near the town of Nad Street Miklos, today in Romania, with the Romanized name Sanicolai Mare, Great Saint Nicholas. It was found by chance by a worker of the immigrant brothers Risto and Kirill Nakovi from Bulgaria. The brothers presented it to Emperor Joseph II, for which they received a noble title after the then name of the city Nadsend Miklos. An exact copy of the treasure is kept in the National History Museum, Sofia. The treasure is on display in the History Museum of the Art in Vienna, annotated as Proto-Bulgarian and attributed to the 9th century. Other researchers suggest an Avar or Pecheneг origin. The treasure consists of 23 vessels with a total weight of about 10 kilograms. 8 of them are made of 22-carat gold. Vessel number 18 is 21.5 carats and the Rhyton, number 17, is 12 carats. 6 vessels are jugs with an egg-shaped body and a relatively long neck, widening at the throat. They had handles completely preserved on number 1 and number 6. They were probably intended for wine. Jugs of a similar shape are found in the art of the Roman Empire, China, Siberia and southern Russia. They are not characteristic of Persian, Iranian art. Some ceramic jugs from the necropolis near Novi Pazar have a shape very similar to those from Nad Street, Miklos. More special is jug number 7, which has a slightly flattened shape found in Byzantine art. Vessel number 8 is a phial with an elliptical shape and a wide, short handle. It is characteristic of ancient art. Quartz number 9, 10, 20 and 21 are aces. Jugs number 11 and 12 have a shape found in Proto-Bulgarian and Avar finds. The animal-shaped bowls, numbers 13, 14 and 18, trace their origins to Persian art. Byzantine in origin are the paters, indicated by nos. 15 and 16. The broken form of the Rhyton is found only in the Barbarian finds. Jug type number 19 is characteristic of Sasanian art. Bowl shapes with numbers 22 and 23 are found in cultures in Europe and Asia. Like the form of the exhibits, their decoration originates from different cultures. Sometimes motifs and images of a heterogeneous character are combined in the same vessel. Two of the vessels are richly decorated with such motifs. On jug number 2, 4 scenes are depicted in 4 circles formed by an interlacing ornament. The first depicts a heavily armed horseman dragging a captive by the hair. With his right hand he has slung over his shoulder a spear with a double-horned banner. He is dressed in mail, and on his head is a conical helmet with 2 feathers. Most Bulgarian researchers believe that the image represents a Bulgarian horseman. The second scene depicts a rider mounted on a creature with an animal body and a human head, anthropoid. He has turned back and is shooting a bow at the panther. Nikola Mavrodinov sees in this scene a great similarity with the mythological motifs on the chest from Terracina, Italy. Defined by him as a work of ancient Bulgarian art. The third scene depicts a griffin attacking a doe. The final scene features an eagle grasping a naked female figure. The prototype of the image is the myth of Zeus transformed into an eagle, abducting Ganymede. The same plot is developed twice on the broad sides of jug number 7, where the figure is male. Once in his upraised hands he holds garlands with plant ornaments, and the other time, a cup of wine, which he brings to the eagle's beak. Images of mythical creatures are also present in the 6 medallions formed by intertwining ornaments in jug number 19. They have the heads of a panther, a lion, an eagle, a bull and 2 times a goat. They have short curved fish tails. Similar creatures, as well as griffins, are depicted on other vessels. The cellular enamel technique was applied to the decoration of some of the exhibits. The glass paste used is reddish-brown in color. In the decoration of the vessels, there are ornaments inherent in different artistic cultures, Christian crosses, the bottoms of some of the vases. Runic signs determined as Turkic or Proto-Bulgarian, spear-shaped motifs from Sasanian art, the neck of jug no. 2, antique acanthized palmettes and rosettes, also known from Byzantine art. The inscription on the bowl with number 21, in Greek letters around a cross, is in Proto-Bulgarian, 5. Boyh lambda a. Zoa Pion. Tech. Delta y gay toy gamma h. Boitaoi lambda. Z omega a pion. Tar gamma po gamma h. HTZI gamma h. Teich. According to Nikola Mavrodanov's reading, based on Thomson, it reads, Boyle Zoapan made this Taz. Batal Zoapan hung, gave him to drink. Studying the medieval past of the Bulgarian state and the achievements of its rulers, our imagination inevitably begins to paint pictures of this period. The ironclad troops of Krum. Returning from another victorious campaign, the dome of the Golden Church in Preslav shining under the sun's rays, the stone palaces of Pliska, the regal majesty of the old capital of Tarnovgrad. At the height of its power under the Krum dynasty and the Asenev family, Bulgaria became a lively and prosperous trade route through which goods passed to and from the Byzantine Empire and a number of Central and Western European countries. We often find in the historical chronicles descriptions of the enormous wealth acquired by the Bulgarian rulers. We could immediately give an example of Tsar Peter's wife, the Byzantine princess Irina, who set off for her groom's domain with a dowry of countless treasures, expensive furniture and personal jewels. Nowadays, unfortunately, not much is left of this splendor of the medieval Bulgarian state. Centuries of foreign rule and predatory invasions ripped Bulgarian history from the lands of the former kings piece by piece. Sometimes, however, astonishing riches deliberately hidden underground are revealed to the wider world, hinting at the rich past of the lands inhabited by the Bulgarians. One of these treasures, the origin of which is still debated, was found at the very end of the 18th century on the territory of today's city of Sunicolai Mare, Great Street Nicholas, in Romania. At the time of the discovery of the great wealth, the city, located in the Banat region, was called Nad Street Miklos and was part of Austria-Hungary. Although disputed, the most common version of the historical find connects its discovery with the names of Christoph and Kirill Nakovi, Bulgarian settlers engaged in agriculture and trade on the territory of the Habsburg Empire. They stumbled upon the treasure by accident while excavating their lands, and subsequently presented the find to Emperor Joseph II of Austro-Hungary. According to the data of the period, the Nakovi brothers were richly rewarded for the precious gift. Although the monetary reward they receive is not large, the Nakovi are honored with noble titles. According to some claims, the rise of the Bulgarian settlers as Hungarian nobles after the discovery of wealth and the subsequent history of their families inspired the Hungarian writer Mór Jokai to write the story Safi. In the spring of 1912, two children from the village of Malaya Pereshchepina, Poltava province, accidentally discovered numerous gold and silver objects in the sand dunes near the Vorskla River. While walking along the shore, one boy's foot fell into a large vessel. In trying to remove his leg, the two boys first pulled out the vessel, which turned out to be gold, and then several more gold cups, which, according to their accounts, were lined up one after the other. Seeing the expensive dishes, the mother of one of the children thought that someone had robbed the village church and immediately informed the local guards. Soon, however, the rumor about the hidden treasure attracted not only the villagers, the guards, the local bailiff, but also all kinds of curious people. Began frantic digging, even breaking, scattering and even handing out pieces of gold leaf to the crowd of curious children gathered around. The first group of objects was handed over to the local bailiff, who did not take any special measures, neither for its storage nor for the security of the location. Thus, the search and excavations continued without interruption. Meanwhile, the local villagers found several more smaller and parts of previously discovered objects. Only 2 days after the discovery, the Poltava Archive Commission dispatched the archaeologist Izaretsky, who saw a crowd of villagers, adults and with small children in their arms, walking towards the deposit, where people of all ages and genders were already diligently digging in the sand. Whoever wanted, he managed to collect the smaller objects from the villagers, documented what had already been handed over to the bailiff and described the place where they were found. According to his notes, the area is sand dunes, without any traces of mounds or artificial embankments. We learn more about the discovered treasure from what was published by N. Makarenko, a member of the Imperial Archaeological Commission, who arrived later. He not only completed the excavations, collected some of the objects left behind by the local residents, but also learned valuable information for future research. According to the memories of the villagers, the objects stood in the ground in a certain order. Gold, silver, and glass goblets seemed to be at the top. Below them, straight or tilted, stood plates, vases and other objects placed around the largest vessel. Karp Ivanovich Magyar, one of the first discoverers years later, said that the find was about 75 to 100 meters from the lake, at the foot of a hill, and the objects were buried in an area of about 1.5 meters. At the top was the large vessel with 2 handles, then a vase, jugs, bracelets, a sword, etc. He also remembered that under the things there was a lot of ash, coal, and also bones, part of a human skull, kneecaps, astragalus. After compiling an inventory, weighing all items collected by the local authorities, they were sent to the Konstantinovgrad Police Department, then to Poltava, and from there to the State Bank in St. Petersburg. From the bank, handed over to the Archaeological Commission. And from 1914 until today they are kept in the State Hermitage, Russia. In the meantime, the famous philanthropist and hapless member of the Imperial Archaeological Commission B. Kanenko managed to buy some of the items that had already ended up in antique shops in Poltava and Kiev. He subsequently offered them for a fee to the Archaeological Commission and the State Hermitage Museum. Today, however, experts assume that B. Hanenko offered for purchase not only objects from the locality near the village of Malaya Pereshchepina, but also other random finds of uncertain origin, registered as originating from the village of Malaya Pereshchepina. However, another part of the objects was already stored in the Poltava Regional Museum. In stages, the Archaeological Commission bought lost objects from the treasure. N. Makarenko himself handed over fragments of ceramics, leather, rings, Byzantine coins. A string of those with images of the emperors Heraclius, Phocas and Constantine II, etc. Thus, most of the objects ended up in the Hermitage, with the exception of those from the Poltava Museum, some of which were lost during the Second World War. 50 years later, the Ukrainian researcher A. Smilenko excavated the site near the village of Malaya Pereshchepina. Did not find anything in the excavations, rejected the version of the presence of ashes and coals, and thus the assumption of a possible cremation carried out not far from the place of hiding the treasure. According to her, the ash layer is a natural sedimentary embankment among the sand dunes, resulting from the proximity to the water. In 1989, a second expedition took place, this time Bulgarian-Soviet, under the leadership of D. Vitanov, which aimed to correlate the burial near the village of Malaya Pereshchepina with the grave of the Bulgarian Khan Kubrat. After surveying the area around the location of the treasure, one of the hills was assumed to be artificial, i.e. deliberately loose. Thus, in memory of the ruler of Great Bulgaria, a concrete block and a stone column were placed, marking the grave of Khan Kubrat. The first researchers of the treasure dated it to the 7th century. Later, the main interest was related to the ethno-cultural affiliation of the treasure. One of the first hypotheses, expressed by B. Rybakov, today without adherents, connects him with the Slavs. Most of the researchers, however, rightly attribute the find to the steppe peoples. The thesis of the German scientist J. Werner deserves special attention, according to which the treasure should be associated with the ruler of Great Bulgaria, Khan Kubrat, interpreting it as inventory from his grave. The thesis of the German researcher mainly rests on the monograms of the two rings from the treasure, with monograms read by V. Seibert as Kubrat and Kubrat Patrician. The find from the village of Malaya Pereshchepina includes objects of a diverse nature from the 6th–7th centuries, the work of different production centers. The largest group is represented by the monuments of Byzantine origin, vessels with seals from a Constantinople workshop, as well as gold works of the Torviktik. Among them a sword with a gold lining and incised crosses, luxurious belt fittings, coins that are part of jewelry, bracelets with inlays, as well as 3 monogrammed rings. One of the earliest vessels among them is a silver dish with the image of a cross. A second silver dish with a chrism and an inscription in Latin with the name of the bishop of the town of Tomi, Patton, end of the 5th, first quarter of the 6th century. A luxury silver set of jug and dish for washing hands with seals from the time of Emperor Mauritius Tiberius, 582 to 602. 8 of the coins in the hoard are Constantinople solidi of 24 carats from the time of the emperors Mauritius, Phocas, from the joint reign of Heraclius and Heraclius Constantine. The rest are light solids of 20 carats from the reign of Heraclius and his sons and the beginning of the reign of Constant II. Specialists define this as a feature of the numismatic material in the Pereshchepina hoard. Since all other coins in the northern Black Sea steppes from the 6th to the beginning of the 7th century are light solids. 8. The Byzantine monuments in the composition of the treasure came in different ways. A portion probably fell into the hands of the Avars, either as booty or tribute. It is assumed that after the rejection of dependence on the Avar Khaganate, they passed to the treasury of the ruler of Great Bulgaria. Others were certainly received as a gift to Khan Kubrat and his uncle Organa on behalf of the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, 610 to 641. A second, smaller group in the composition of the treasure are the monuments of Sassanid origin. Among them is the earliest object, a silver dish with an image of a Sasanian Shahinshah of uncertain identification, Shurur I, 241 to 272, Shapur II, 309 to 379, or Yezdegerd II, 439 to 457. A second silver dish with cosmogonic symbolism, a gold jug with a Kalani image at the base of the handle, as well as 2 gold cups. So far, there is no answer as to how these vessels came into the hands of the Bulgarian Khan. One version is that they were probably bought by traveling merchants. But it cannot be ruled out that at some point they were in the possession of the court of the Hagan of the Western Turks. The third group of monuments has a Tuk-Sogdian origin. These are items widely distributed among the Turco-nomadic environment. It is likely that some of them belong to the treasury of the Western Turkic Khaganate. And after the death of the Khaganate in 630, they passed to their vassals, the Khazars, or they were military spoils of the Bulgarians from the northern Black Sea steppes. To this group belong 2 sets of 10 silver and 11 gold cups. The silver ones are marked with the sign, lambda, and the gold ones were probably made later, following the pattern of the silver ones. Among the most interesting vessels is a wooden jug lined with gold plates with plastic decoration, representing the non-flammable blackberry motif, and also gold fittings for the mouth of a quiver and for a saddle, decorated with tufts of half-palmettes, etc. The wand, mid-7th century, 153 by 2.2 centimeters, sphere diameter 3.4 centimeters, is composed of a sphere and cylindrical parts that cover a wooden base. The sphere at the top is made of 2 parts. The upper one has an opening, and the lower one passes into a hollow cylinder. The original staff is composed of 8 parts, with a wooden core in the middle, determined by experts at the Hermitage to be ash. They are made of gold leaf of different composition and thickness, which indicates that repairs have been carried out. The identical archaeometric characteristics of the upper and lower parts of the staff link it to the items of Turkic origin in the hoard. The rectangular hole in the upper side of the sphere is identical to the holes for attaching square plates that lined the wooden coffin of the buried person. Based on these marks, experts date its manufacture to the last period of its owner's life, just before his death, as the insignia of the highest authority among the nomads. The connection of the scepter with the Turkic items from the treasure suggests some change in the symbols of the ruler's dignity among the Bulgarians. This probably happened in the middle of the 7th century. As a result of the new ethno-political situation in the northern Black Sea steppes and the new contacts of the Bulgarians with the Turco-Khazars. The Rhyton is of general duty, 29 cm diameter. At the mouth 7.6 cm. Two-legged, composed of 2 welded conical shapes. At the mouth, the connection between the separate parts. The lower edge and on both bodies there is a decoration of relief strips composed of parallel grooves and hemispheres. It is made of gold and is an integral part of the owner's armament and equipment. Similar Rhytons are known from the hoard from Nad Street, Miklos, Transylvania, and from a grave of a prominent Avar warrior from Boca, Hungary. The Byzantine belt end 13.5 x 5.56 cm. Is a double-sided tongue-shaped cassette with a sharp tip and double concave sides. It consists of 2 welded symmetrical parts. In the central part on one side there is a net ornament forming diamond and triangular cells for inlaid glass stones. Around it, a double border of hemispheres and pointed leaves with triangles between them. On the reverse side, 2 7-leafed palmettes with a detached central pointed leaf are depicted, located along the longitudinal axis. The tip is made of gold with inlaid glass stones. Together with the belt with identical stylistic morphological features, they represent a set. Probably from the luxurious patrician belt, cingulum, presented to Khan Kubrat by Emperor Heraclius. The shape is characteristic of Byzantine belt fittings from the 6th–7th centuries. Similar palmettes, but with a different interpretation of the leaves, decorate the set of 11 gold cups from the treasure, probably produced in a workshop from the northern Black Sea area. The ring, stamp with monogram, organa, Patricius, it consists of a ring with a circular section and a circular plate. On her face, a cross-shaped monogram with the initials of the owner of the ring. On the vertical shoulder, above, the combination, R, is red. To the right of the horizontal arm is the usual sphagistic construction, PTKI, meaning Patricius. On the right side is the letter abbreviation, VTNO. Deciphered by specialists as Vitora, N. Oi Patrick Eoi. He is identified with the person of Bat Organa, the ruler of the Bulgarians in the First Turkic Khaganate, uncle and regent of the Little Kubrat. Baptized in Constantinople in 619, when he received the title of patrician, and honorary gifts. It is made of gold. It consists of 2 cast parts, subsequently welded. The face of the tile is sanded and the monogram is incised with a chisel. A cruciform monogram is incised on the face, with the initials of the owner, read as Hovratoy, Kubrat, Kobra. The absence of the title, patrician, on this ring suggests that it was most likely made and received as a gift when the young Kubrat visited Constantinople. Together with his uncle, the regent Organa. The ring is made of gold, consisting of 2 soldered parts. The monogram is incised. Amphora height 48.6 cm. Mouth diameter 12.1 cm. Body diameter 26 cm. Diameter. Bottom 12.5 cm. The amphora has a pear-shaped body with a tall, wide neck and a profiled mouth. The bottom is flat. Below the mouth and high above the shoulders are 2 symmetrical handles, plastically shaped like stylized figures of dolphins. 3 decorative bands adorn the smooth surface of the amphora. Below the mouth is a frieze of caraways. In the middle, an acanthus tray with piles of fruit, alternated with bearded heads of Selines, and at the bottom, acanthus leaves. Vessels with handles shaped like dolphins are characteristic of the Hellenistic and Roman traditions, found on vessels for storing grain, wine and olive oil. It is made of silver and is gold-plated. It is made up of several separate parts that are then welded together. The mouth, neck and handles are cast, and the body parts are formed by plastic deformation. The amphora was probably repaired at some point, as the lower part of the vessel is from another silver amphora. The thick layer of plating has obliterated the areas of the solder joints. Jug cup 18.2 by 8.2 by 8.3 cm. Is composed of several separate parts that are subsequently welded together. The mouth, neck and handles are cast, and the body parts are formed by plastic deformation. The amphora was probably repaired at some point, as the lower part of the vessel is from another silver amphora. The thick layer of plating has obliterated the areas of the solder joints. A pear-shaped body with an outwardly curved funnel-shaped mouth and an openwork seat of flat circles soldered around the base in a horizontal row. The handle is intricately profiled. A trefoil is soldered to the body, which passes into a perpendicular 5-leafed palmet. In the space between them, a round handle made of spheres. The jug is made of hammered gold leaf. The surface shows traces of probing with a tool. It was produced in a Sogdian workshop. On one side, the jug is deformed, so it is assumed that it was originally placed in the neck of the large silver, gilded amphora when it was deposited. Vessels of a similar shape and an identical handle of spheres are characteristic of Sogdian metalwork. Their images are known on the wall decoration of dwellings in ancient Penjikent, dated to the 7th–8th centuries. Close parallels are known among the Gumbaboni and Azora Totopusta complexes, Hungary, associated with the aristocratic Ava 6th century Ava, as well as among Chinese silver metalwork. From the Tang period, 608 to 907, the set of gold goblets 9.9 by 8.2 by 4.2 centimeters. They have a bell-shaped body with a foot shaped like a multi-walled sphere flanked by a single relief ring. The stool is a flattened cone. The lower part of the cup is decorated with 4 7-leaved palmettes, which alternate with stems ending in a heart-shaped leaf. The ends of the palmate leaves are curled inward, and the middle is heart-shaped. The cups are made of gold leaf. The relief is formed by hammering on the outside. The sphere is made of 2 parts formed by plastic deformation. It is joined to the body and the chair, and the places of the connections are masked with welded circles of wire. Inside there are bone particles, the ringing of which had apotropaic functions. 26 In the composition of the treasure there are 11 similar golden cups. Their form is classical, but in the 6th–7th centuries it was spread over a wide Euro-Asian area. They were probably made in imitation of the similarly shaped silver cups of the hoard's composition. The floral ornament resembles the 5-leaved palmette on the end of the patrician belt. The work of a Byzantine workshop, but the treatment of the leaves is in the spirit of the Sogdian artistic tradition. It is assumed that the set of gold cups was made in a northern Black Sea atelier that met the needs of luxury dishes intended for the royal table. Belt buckle 9.6 by 5.3 by 4.05 centimeters. It consists of a lyre-shaped frame, a tab with a profiled section and a socket for an inlaid stone, hinged with a thyroid plate. On the obverse, a relief decoration of 3, symmetrically placed, ruffled palmettes, whose short leaves end with rounded ends. The composition is inscribed in a plastic frame following the shape of the tile. In the middle, a plastic row of large circles. The attachment to the strap was by 3 rivets with hemispherical heads located in the corners. The buckle is made of gold. The ornament on the tile is cast. The treatment of the palmettes suggests Sogdian production or performance influenced by the Sogdian artistic tradition. Today, thanks to the financial, administrative and judicial measures taken by the Archaeological Commission, the treasure stored in the Hermitage includes over 800 gold and silver objects, vessels, weapons covered with gold and silver foil, horse harness, belt fittings, jewelry inlaid with precious and glass stones, and 70 gold Byzantine coins. The total weight of the gold objects is 25 kilograms. The silver ones, about 50 kilograms. The tomb of the Thracian king Seftis III is located in the Galia Marta Kosmatka mound, 1 kilometer south of the town of Shipka and 12 kilometers north of the town of Kazanlik. It was discovered in 2004. The tomb was built in the second half of the 5th century BC. The gold crown of the ruler, a golden kylix, wine cup, knee pads and a helmet, appliques for horse ammunition, etc. were found in it, which are presented in the Historical Museum in the city of Kazanlik. Notable is the ritually buried bronze head of the statue of Seftis III in front of the facade, which is quite detailed. It is an important testimony of the Thracian Orphic rituals. The tomb temple consists of a corridor, an antechamber, a round chamber with a high domed cover and a rectangular chamber built like a sarcophagus from 2 monolithic stone blocks, one of which weighs over 60 tons. The 3 rooms are built with rectangular stone blocks and are covered with slabs. A double marble door closes the entrance to the circular chamber. The upper fields of the wings are decorated with images of the god Dionysus. In the eastern one he is the personification of the sun, and in the western one he is the personification of the earth and the night. In the third chamber, objects were found in situ that testify to a particularly lavish burial. They include a golden wreath of oak leaves and acorns, vessels for drinking and serving wine, 3 clay amphorae, a bronze ascos and patera, a silver jug and phial, a gold kylix. Armorial elements: bronze helmet with silver gilt applique, knee pads, breastplate with gold woven decoration, iron sword in scabbard with gold appliques, spearheads, decoration for horse ammunition. Circular gold applique with the head of a raging lion with finely crafted floral ornaments, glass game pieces, items associated with the outfit. 2 alabaster censers and a gilt silver shell-shaped pyxis box. In the rectangular chamber are the ritual bed and a ritual table. They were covered with a cloth made of gold thread, after which a lavish burial was performed for the ruler. The name of Sevet is written on the phial, jug and helmet, which proves that at the beginning of the 3rd century BC, Seftis III, the famous Thracian ruler of the Odris kingdom, is buried here. The capital of his kingdom, Sevtopolis, is located 10 kilometers southwest of the tomb. At the bottom of the Koprinka dam, the head of the statue of Seftis, which stood on a pedestal in the capital city of Pseutopolis, was buried in the tomb. The personal belongings and gifts necessary for the afterlife of the ruler were carefully placed in the chamber. During the funeral, the entrance to the round chamber and the vestibule were bricked up, the ruler's horse was sacrificed, and the corridor was ritually set on fire. After the grave goods were placed, a horse sacrifice was performed in the first chamber. The marble door to the second chamber was broken and pieces of it, along with other stones and blocks, were used to block up the entrances to the first 2 chambers. The corridor was burned and filled with stones and soil. The objects found in the tomb date from the late 4th, early 3rd century BC. The exact date is difficult to establish because metal objects have a long period of use. One of the three amphorae bears the seal Hierotimuin, which dates roughly to the period 310–275 B.C. The 7 gold rosette appliques are part of a horse armor decoration set. The plates are expressed as 5-leaved rosettes with rounded leaves, the space between which is occupied by pointed leaflets. The leaves of the rosette are additionally framed with gold wire, and the center highlighted with a ball ear for sewing to organic material. Rosette-shaped applications are characteristic of horse bridle decoration in Thrace. A very close analogue are the rosettes from Kraljevo, Targovisko, the gold chief from the horse ammo decoration set. The flat part is octagonal, a stylization of a double axe that is typical of Thracian horse ornaments. The voluminous part in the center is a lion's head in a facsimile with an open mouth and a tongue hanging from it. The mane with strands shaped like flames frames the predator's head. The folds on the forehead and muzzle and ears are voluminously rendered. Additional engraving of the details of the image, eyes, mouth, mane, in the 2 fields of the flat base, bounded by a border of cut wire. Palmettes made of wire are affixed. On the front plate at the base of the palmette are 2 S-shaped spirals. Phase transmission of the image. In style, the lion's head resembles that of the circular applique on a vestry from the same burial. The palmettes are linearly developed. The leaves are symmetrically bent towards the center. The stylization of zoomorphic and plant motifs is characteristic of Greek taurutics during early Hellenism. Analogous in style and performance technique is the headman from Kraljevo, Targovisko. The lion is a frequent motif in the iconography of Thracian chieftains. This is an animal that in the royal ideology is a metaphor and an opponent of the hero. The 2 gold-studded studs, 5.35 cm, length 3.5 cm, part of a horse ammunition decoration set, have an oval shape. The frame is voluminous and cut. In the lower part of the field are represented spirals made of thin gold wire. The whole field is occupied by a stag's head in high relief. It is rendered in fasces, having long branched horns meeting at the apex. The surface of the horns and their branches, as well as the long ears, are further developed with notches, through which the fur of the animal and the rough surface of the horns are depicted. The details of the image of the deer, the contours of the eyes and eyelids, the nostrils and the hair at the base of the antlers, are engraved. These applications could also be the work of a local craftsman. However, the artistic standards, as well as the rendering of the deer's head in the fasces, speak in favor of a Greek master. The decoration of the bibs ties them stylistically to the other elements of the horse ammunition from Golyama Kosmatka. The deer is often found in Thracian iconography as the hero's prey during his trials of worth. The bronze helmet with a height of 23 cm is of the Chalcidian type with immovable nipples. Above the forehead of the helmet is soldered a silver gilt bust of the goddess Athena with a helmet, made by a local craftsman. The details of the image are highlighted with indentation. This type of decoration is characteristic of the Thracian type of iron helmets found in Macedonia. It is clear that for the Great Hairy Helmet this addition was made to link it semantically with the kneelers from the same burial, on which Athena is also represented. In the front part of the helmet with a punch, the name Seftis in the genitive case, Southu, is hammered in Greek letters, which together with other materials from the burial indicates that it belonged to the ruler Seftis III. It is assumed that the large golden wreath of oak branches found in the tomb chamber was also placed on top of the helmet holders. This type of helmet is among the most common items of protective armor in Thracian burials. The shell-shaped silver box belongs to a type of cosmetic boxes common in the ancient world, which in southern Italy even carry images of whole scenes. The use of shells for this purpose is proven by their frequent finds in burials, sometimes even with the remains of cosmetic products. The two parts of the shell are connected by a hinge. The tiles on the hinge are decorated on the outside and on the inside of the pyxis with a linear and dashed plant ornament, palmettes connected by branches. On the inside of the conch, the concave parts of the ribs are gilded, and on the outside, each rib is highlighted with two longitudinal incised lines. The surface of the box is additionally ornamented with four spaced concentric bands formed by three wavy lines hammered on the inside of the pyxie. In the space between them are applied bands grouped on the edges of three indented dots. On the outside, along the edge of the shell, in the center of its base and on the hinge plate, 11 six-leaf rosettes are soldered. Decorative. Linear. The stylization of the plant ornament is characteristic of the end of the 4th century BC and became widespread in the 3rd century BC. The choice of shell as part of the cosmetic repertoire is determined by its connection with the myth and cult of Aphrodite. Georgi Kotov suggests that before the tomb was closed, the facility was used for more than a century as a temple where the Orphic mysteries were performed. His claim is not supported by archaeological data. Golyama Kosmatka was excavated in September and October 2004 by the team of Georgi Kotov. In 2007, georadar measurements were carried out on the mound, led by Yavor Shopov. According to him, there is a larger, unexcavated building in the mound. Since the beginning of June 2016, the tomb has been open to visitors after carrying out the necessary CMR and restoration works. The tomb is part of the Valley of the Thracian Kings, which also includes the Kazanlik tomb, as well as the tombs and temples found in the Golyama Arsenorka, Shushmanets, Helvetia, Grifoni, Svetitsa and Ostrusha mounds. The organizers of the Historical Museum in Kazanlik offer a tour and talks in Bulgarian, English and German. The area of the silver treasure from the village of Galish, Thracian region, has been inhabited by human societies since prehistoric times. In the area of Yambol there are traces of a settlement that existed during the early period of the Copper Stone Age, and in Prapora there was a settlement from the late period of the same era, Miklos versus 1933, page 235. Traces of a similar settlement can also be found south of the monastery well. An early Bronze Age settlement and necropolis were discovered around the Pacata spring. Clay burial urns from cremation burials and household items were found. Nikolov, B. Early Bronze Age. 1982, page 196. Ob. 2. There was a settlement from the late Bronze Age around the Obreton Spring and in the Pishtovar Padina area. A bronze dagger tip and an original bronze axe decorated with geometric ornaments came from here. Nikolov, B. Archaeology, 1964, number 2, page 70, OBR. 3. Extremely rich cultural monuments were left by the Thracians in the region of Gallus. 9 Thracian settlements inhabited by Thracian societies during different historical eras have been established. The largest in terms of area is the Thracian settlement, which covers the center of present-day Galish from Starata Cheshma and Parka to the east to Pishurata. This settlement was probably inhabited without significant interruptions from the Bronze to the late Roman era. Miklos, v. 1933, page 39. In the late Roman era, there was a Thracian sanctuary dedicated to the god Dionysus near the springs. Ceramics. A bronze statuette of Old Strong and the upper half of a marble votive slab with an image of the god Dionysus were discovered. Nikolov, B. IAI, 1967, page 219, OBR. 4 and 5. 2 necropolises are also known from the same time. One of them is on the territory of today's Galish, and the other, in the area of Prapora, opposite the railway stop. Burials of Thracian warriors were discovered in them, along with their weapons. Nikolov, B. IAI, 1965, page 186, OBR 27. Separate Thracian burials were found in the northeastern high part of Gallus. The remains of other Thracian settlements were excavated in the localities Dupliaca, Yotkova Trpka, Karamelov Geranium, Penyashka Trpka, Suntina Babka and Tevo Drivo. See Nikolov. B. Galish vs. Drevnost. Vratsa. 1962, 40p. Groups of several Thracian burial mounds were erected around all these settlements. It is evident that the region of Gallus was a major Thracian center before the Roman invasion. These nearly 40 Thracian burial mounds were erected next to the Thracian settlements and also to the places where there were estates of the Thracian landowning aristocracy. The silver treasure from the village of Galish still keeps the secret of its exact origin and purpose. It is a unique piece of work, most likely by a local craftsman or by several craftsmen. The images of a woman on one of the objects found and of a horseman on another of them suggest their use not only as ornaments, but also as religious symbols of fertility and victory in battles. Its dating is around the 2nd century BC. The objects are round, slightly convex appliques, phalleri, which were probably used for attachment and decoration. Some suggest for breastplates. There are also theories about some horse ornaments for rich Thracians. The treasure from Galish was discovered in 1918 by Ganka Neshkova, somewhere mentioned as Sanka, in the area of Glojetse or Chukata near the village of Vratsa. The circumstances of the find are not very clear. Grandma Ganka says that after a heavy rain, she collected 24 silver objects with gold decoration dug up from the downpour. Unfortunately, she immediately gave away 10 of them to her relatives, who sold them to ring dealers, according to their stories, and the mayor of Galish only managed to send the remaining 14 to Sofia. A great horde of Thracian warriors, but then none of the Sofia specialists visit the site. 2 of the phalleri have divine images of a woman symbolizing the goddess of fertility, and of a Thracian horseman. The woman's hairstyle is interesting. She has 2 flowing braids, different from the way Thracian women usually wore themselves. The rest of the phalleri have floral decorations, and some of the elements are also found on other Thracian treasures, including the Rogozen one. Scientists suggest that the treasure was buried either during the Celtic invasions or later, during the Roman ones. Today, we can only guess what other finds there were around Galish, which may have long been found and melted down or exported abroad. After all, until the liberation, and even after, it was usual to unregulated excavation of old settlements and sale of the found finds. No security, no museums and regulated archaeological research. And precisely in the 18th–19th centuries in Western Europe, interest in ancient works of art arose and the foundations of modern archaeology were laid. We will probably never know what part of the treasures found in Bulgarian lands adorn private collections and museums all over the world. It is also possible that the vessels from Galicia were not remelted by goldsmiths at the beginning of the 20th century, but were sold. Finds around Gallus testify to a highly developed Thracian settlement with burial mounds, which managed to survive even during the conquest by the Roman Empire. The interesting thing is that the village of Galish has had this name since at least the late Middle Ages and has never changed it, nor has it changed its location, under the Thracians, the Romans. During the First and Second Bulgarian kingdoms, in the Ottoman Empire and in modern Bulgaria. Today, the original of the treasure from Galish is exhibited in the National Archaeological Museum in Sofia, and there is a copy of it in the Regional History Museum in Vratsa. The treasure was discovered in 1972 in the land of the village of Yakimovo, Montansko, and like most similar monuments, it was found by accident. It consists of 4 silver bowls in the shape of a truncated cone, a silver vessel with 2 handles, called in ancient times acantharos, 2 round appliques, 2 massive silver bracelets, the ends of which are shaped like snake heads, a bronze vessel with a silver band, fragments of other bronze dishes. It is likely that this is not the entire treasure, as there are reports that some of the items were stolen immediately after they were discovered. The salvaged finds are now kept in the Montana City Museum. The conical silver bowl from the Yakimov treasure belongs to the most common type of vessels from the late Hellenistic period. Similar vases have been found all over the ancient world and date mainly from the period 2nd century BC. Bowls with figural images on the walls are rarer. The court from Yakimovo is interesting with the image of a horseman, which, although quite fragmented, gives an idea of the art in our lands during this period. All its modeling, the attention to detail, The hierarchy city of the poses, the rough gilding, the extensive use of the notch, these are the hallmarks of this style, which should not be associated with a particular ethnic group, but belongs to a vast international cultural community. In the image of the horseman, we can see the intermediate link between the equestrian hero from the Thracian monuments of the VIV centuries BC, and the thousands of votive tablets from the Roman era. In ancient historiography, Strabo speaks of Scaurdus, so-called Malascaurdus, living east of the Morava River, i.e. in the lands which until the arrival of the Celts were tribal territory. Probably also after 278 BC. The Celts continued to attack the tribes until conquering part of their lands and breaking their military and political power. The lands inhabited by the tribals were rich in various ores, and metallurgy played a significant role in the life of the Scordians. In Yakimovo, they are proud of the fact that the so-called Asparakov Val passes through the lands of the settlement and is still visible, although only a small part remains. This defensive facility, which was once about 3 meters deep, actually guarded one of the borders of Asparakova, Bulgaria, says the deputy mayor of the municipality, Konstantin Vladov. On the outside of the largest bowl is a high relief of a horseman with a short cloak and a long sword. The figure is among the rare depictions of the Thracian horseman on an object. One of the appliques depicts a bearded man, whom researchers believe is the owner of the treasure himself, represented as a horseman hero. The treasure is dated to the 2I century BC, and is most likely related to the art of the Scors, a mixed Thracian Celtic population in present-day northwestern Bulgaria and eastern Serbia. In ancient historiography, Strabo speaks of Scaurdus living east of the Morava River, i.e. in the lands which until the arrival of the Celts were tribal territory. Probably also after 278 BC. The Celts continued to attack the tribes until conquering part of their lands and breaking their military and political power. It is the silver bracelets decorated with snake heads that are the mystery that remains unsolved at the moment, or rather how it ended up on jewelry in this area. The snake and its image were sacred in the Rhodope region, not near the Danube River, say Rim, Montana, but they do not bother to give an explanation for the silver reptiles near Yakimovo. An influence of cults brought from the south is not a particularly good one, since no other such symbols have been found. The other is that the ritual objects were brought, but at the same time. One of the images is believed to be of their owner, who was probably also a local ruler, and perhaps the master jeweler. The image of the other application is undoubtedly the great goddess, mother of the gods. She holds in her hands a canthar rose, probably intended for ritual libations. The two appliques served to decorate vessels intended for Thracian cult rites. The images on them are related to the custom of deifying rulers and the belief that they originate from the mother goddess. It is assumed that the vessels from the hoard were used in the performance of various rites in the home temple of a Thracian chieftain. Probably, during one of the wars, at a time of danger. They were hidden in the ground. Apparently no one survived as the vessels remained in the ground to this day. The Great Mother Goddess is the primary deity in Thracian religion. She is a symbol and personification of the earth and of the female principle, which, according to the understanding of the time, created the universe. As a rule, her images are anonymous. But very often she is represented as the goddesses Bendida, Cybele, Kotito, Brauro, Zorinthia, who are also associated with the cult of the feminine. In Thrace, the Great Mother Goddess is the patroness of animals and the hunt, of fertility and fecundity, guardian of the cult of the sun, of the sacred fire, of the women mothers and of the virgins who performed the rites. The Great Mother Goddess possesses divine knowledge, which she passes on to the Thracian rulers through sacred marriage, turning them into gods themselves. Many things about the past of the village of Yakimovo Montansko and the region can be learned from a rich museum collection in the community center of the village, and in the National History Museum in Sofia. Every Bulgarian can admire the silver treasure with gold applications, discovered in the region in 1972. Silver bowls, bracelets and other objects reveal secrets of the life of the ancient people of these lands. In 2004, about 2 kilometers south of the town of Shipka, Bulgaria, in the locality, Svetitsa, the team of Associate Professor Dr. Georgy Kotov discovered a unique gold mask of a Thracian ruler. The golden relief mask was discovered by Dr. Kitov's wife, Diana Dimitrova. The mask, made with many details, weighs 690 grams. It is the most massive found in the Balkans and is made of 24-karat gold. The Thracian burial is from the second half of the 5th century BC. It has been suggested that it may have belonged to King Teres. Teres I was an Odrysian king, born probably in the second half of the 6th century BC. He is the father of Kings Sparadoc and Sitorchus. He managed to expand the lands of the Odrysians and create a vast and powerful kingdom. At the end of the 6th century BC, Teres embarked on a military campaign to the northeast, taking the lands of the Getae along the way and reaching the Danube. There he faced the invading Scythians from the northern Black Sea region, but it did not lead to an armed conflict. Relations between the two countries are settled through diplomatic channels. Teres married his daughter to the Scythian ruler Ariapetus, and the Danube River was defined as the border between them. After 478 BC, fought against the Tinians, seeking expansion to the south to the Thracian Chersonese, but was defeated. After 465 BC, fought successful battles in the southeast, capturing the lands between Byzantium and Salmydessos. Teres died about 448 BC, aged 92. His son Sparadoc succeeds him on the throne. The golden mask of Teres is in no way inferior to the famous mask of Agamemnon, its discoverer. Drive. Georgy Kotov, 1943–2008, liked to say during his lifetime. According to experts, the jewelry craftsmanship and elegance of the unknown Thracian master really originated with the art of the goldsmiths of ancient Greece. That is why the unwavering interest in Drive. Kitov's unique find and the Tempe expedition speaks for itself. As soon as the world learned about her, the golden mask of Teres shone on the covers of a dozen world archaeological magazines. Among them are the official edition of the American Institute of Archaeology, Archaeology, Minerva, a magazine that is published simultaneously in London and New York, etc. Even Greek publications, which are generally skeptical of Thracian culture and civilization, devote whole pages to the discovery. Dr. Georgy Kotov and the archaeologists found the priceless treasure on August 19, 2004 in the Thracian mound, Svetitsa, a few kilometers from the town of Shipka. Even in the very shallow, in the dirt of the open brick grave, the amazing find shines. It turns out that the gold mask is made of pure 23.5 karat gold and weighs a whopping 672.5 grams. Several golden masks are known in world archaeology, from Mycenae, Ellada, Tibernisht, near Lake Ohrid, and Syndos, near Thessaloniki. However, they are all made of thin gold foil and their weight is incomparably less than that of the mask from the Saint. Dr. Kitov's companion in life, Diana Dimitrova, a member of the archaeological team, was the first to glimpse the brilliance of the golden find. The mask was found where the head of the burials should have stood, face up, sandwiched by a large stone slab. This fact, as well as its shape, make Dr. Georgy Kotov, a connoisseur of Thracian culture, make a curious assumption. According to him, the mask was most likely used as a file. The ruler lifted the file mask with his hands, drank the wine and put it on his face. It was only natural that this transformation should inspire awe in his subjects and guests. The first bronze cuirass armor discovered during excavations in Bulgaria was also taken from the Thracian mound, the Szent. It is completely preserved, following the outline of the human body. In the tomb, archaeologists also found several spears, a large iron sword and pottery vessels. The experts found that the Thracian mound, Svetitsita, dates from the middle and second half of the 5th century BC. Because of the priceless gold mask, they suggest that the brick tomb is most likely that of the first known Odrysian king, Teres, who lived in 444–80 BC. He is also known to be the father of the later famous Thracian ruler Sitork. The tomb looks like a scale model of a temple. Not only the form, but also the finds in it raise many questions. Parts of a human skeleton were found in the burial chamber. Bones of arms, legs, chest, lower jaw with teeth. Some of the expensive gifts were laid not whole, but in parts. All this gives reason to the researcher Georgy Kotov to assume that the person buried in the Szent was a follower of Orphism. It is possible that the whole body of the ruler is not buried in the mound, but only parts of it, he says, and recalls the famous legend of Orpheus. The mythical singer and Thracian king gathered the men, walked around the caves, drank wine on their stomachs and had fun until they passed out. However, their wives got angry, killed the instigator Orpheus, tore his body to pieces and scattered it in different places. Only the singer's head was found in a river, and despite being separated from the body, it continued to sing. The treasure is priceless. It can be used to pay all our external debt. Excited Dr. Georgy Kotov said immediately after the discovery in Svetitsa to the assembled journalists and colleagues. His opinion is supported by the then director of the National History Museum, Professor Bozhidar Dimitrov. According to him, it is really a find with a huge historical and artistic value, which should not be calculated in numbers. But in a possible auction, the price of the golden mask alone could reach millions of dollars. In the Wonders of Bulgaria campaign of the Standard magazine, both readers and specialists were unanimous that the golden mask of Teres in the Valley of the Thracian Kings near Kazanlak was the archaeological discovery of the decade. They were not yet happy with the great find. Shortly after, the archaeologists dug up a gold ring from the finger with an Olympian rower engraved on it as a monogram. The ring was also of extremely fine workmanship, no doubt the work of a master jeweler, and weighed 15 grams. According to Dr. Kotov, this is one of the largest Thracian rings found on our lands until then. The Dabin treasure was discovered in the summer of 2004 in the land of the village of Dabin, Karlovo, Bulgaria. NG excavations under the direction of archaeologist Martin Ristov. New elements of it were discovered in 2005 to 2007. An archaeological expedition conducted a study of a Roman road station located on an old Roman road that passed nearby. One day, two archaeologists went shopping in a shop in the city and noticed a string of golden beads around the neck of the saleswoman, reminding them of ancient gold. It was established that the records were found by the seller's husband in the land of the village of Dabin while he was plowing with his tractor. The man shows the place and soon the excavation begins. During the period 2004 to 2007, more than 20,000 gold findings from 18 to 23 carats were found at the site. Beads, gold rings from necklaces, earrings, spirals, hairpins, small gold amulets in the shape of a Tesla and other ornaments of very fine workmanship. The smallest reach a diameter of only 1.5 millimeters. Something unthinkable according to our ideas about the technologies that existed during the Bronze Age. From them, 3 gold strings were recovered, consisting of various elements. Beads and dispensers, from ritual structures number 3 and 5. The spirals are made of gold wire, with a different number of coils. The appliques are of 2 types. They served for decoration and were sewn to the clothes. Notable is a small box with a lid made of pure silver, which was unknown in antiquity from other areas. As well as the golden dagger weighing 42.8 grams, from ritual structure number 5, unique to the lands of ancient Thrace and southeastern Europe. It is a double-edged dagger, ending not with a sharp point, but with a sharpened flat front. Archaeologists are still not unanimous in their opinion about its origin, Thracian or Proto-Thracian. The gold objects were found in special structures called ritual, similar to low burial mounds. They are dated to 2450–2100 BC. Early Bronze Age. Over 15 structures have been explored, with only a few having gold finds. They are laid on the ground together with a variety of pottery, silver and glass objects, and are covered with river stones. The gold objects in each of the structures are different in shape and stand out from those placed in the other structures. It turns out that in Karlovy Vary at that time there existed a very highly developed civilization, which, according to some scientists, supplied the whole of Central and Southern Europe with the precious metal. The area is still gold-bearing today and it is a matter of local craftsmanship by local master goldsmiths who lived in these places. Karlovo Field, in which the village of Dabin is located, was a production center in ancient times. This conclusion is made based on their concentration. The gold items were not found in a burial mound, and human bone remains were missing, indicating that they were not part of a burial gift. The very place where the discoveries were made is of particular interest. The prehistoric settlement known to archaeologists from the IV 3 millennium BC. is located kilometers from here. At the site of the discoveries, there are no traces of a settlement or individual buildings, there are no traces of fires, nor are there any signs that the place was an ancient necropolis. The discoveries were made in small mounds, hundreds in number, in the field itself. Ceramic, bronze and silver vessels were found in some of them. A gold plate was discovered. The objects were placed in the ground probably as part of a sacrifice to an unknown deity, most likely the Great Mother Goddess of the Thracians. The vessels were buried and the gold strings were ritually torn and scattered over them and then buried with earth as an offering to the goddess. During the excavations in 2006, a unique golden dagger or dagger was discovered, an alloy of gold, platinum and other metals with a very high purity of gold. The golden dagger is 16 centimeters long. It is cut and sharpened in the front part, and the two holes are visible in the back, by which its handle, presumably of bone or wood, was attached to it. The alloy from which it is made is hard enough to stay well sharpened over the millennia and with a strong enough gold content to keep it in perfect condition without patina. It is one of a kind in the entire world. It is assumed that it served as a personification of the royal and priestly power of the owner. During the excavations in 2007, in a deep pit filled with stones, 8 ceramic vessels of different types and sizes, a cup and a gold spiral with a very high sample of the gold and with extremely interesting workmanship, from a gold tube. The discoveries from Dabin are already changing the ideas of archaeologists and historians about the times of the birth of European civilization. About the influence that this ancient civilization that existed on the territory of today's Bulgaria had on the development of Europe. The treasure from Dabin to some extent also provides the connection between the ancient civilization from the culture of Varna and the treasures from the village of Hotnitsa from the 5th millennium BC, which until now were somewhat too isolated in time, without any connection with the Thracian tribes and their masterpieces from the better-known 1st and 2nd millennium BC. The treasure was discovered in excellent condition and without restoration was exhibited in the National History Museum on August 9, 2005. The Kotnica treasure consists of 44 gold objects dated to the Stone-Copper Age. It was discovered during the survey of the settlement mound of the same name in 1956 and 1957. In 1956 and 1957, the then Veliko Tarnovo Regional National Museum conducted archaeological excavations of the settlement mound near the village of Hotnitsa, under the guidance of archaeologist Nikola Angelov. 6 buildings dating to the end of the Stone-Copper Age were discovered during the survey. The settlement perished in a fire, and in one of the dwellings the remains of 5 badly burned human skeletons were found, one of which has a copper axe next to his head. Of particular interest is building number 4, which is almost square in shape, which differs from all the others in the settlement, which are rectangular, and is located in the very center of the mound. Its entrance is from the south, and the building is divided into 2 rooms, the northern one being the larger of the 2. The building lacks features characteristic of the dwellings of this era, such as a hearth, a chromel, hand mill made of 2 stones, and household pottery. Traces of red paint can be found on some of the remains on the outside of the walls. All this leads the researcher to think that the building was not intended for habitation and most likely had a cult purpose. Immediately next to the northern wall of the northern room of the aforementioned building number 4, 44 gold objects were found in a heap. 4 round convex plates with a large hole in the middle and small holes intended for hanging, 39 gold rings and 1 spiral. The total weight of the treasure is 312 grams. The chemical composition of the metal is 92% gold and 7.5% silver. The purity of the gold is 21 to 22 carats, which roughly corresponds to the composition of the gold-bearing sands in Bulgaria. The circular perforated plates, also known as idols, are approximately the same thickness, 0.5 millimeters. Which probably means they are made from a single sheet of gold. They have a polished front surface and a matte interior. The gold rings form 3 groups according to their length, which suggests a form of standardization. They have the following lengths: I, from 7.7 to 9.1 centimeters, 14 pieces; 2, from 11.6 to 13.6 centimeters, 11 pieces; 3, from 14 to 16 centimeters, 15 pieces, and their thickness is between 1.5 and 2 millimeters. Some of the rings were found attached to each other in 2s and 4s. The golden spiral is the heaviest object of the group, 44 years. It is twisted 2.5 times. The body thickness is 3.5 millimeters. In 2000, the excavations of the settlement mound were renewed under the leadership of archaeologist Stefan Chohagiev. In the next few seasons, 5 more gold objects were discovered, 3 round idols, similar to those found by Angelov and those from the Varna Chalcolithic necropolis, and 2 spirals. The second of these, dated to the early stages of the late Chalcolithic, can be considered one of the earliest gold objects worldwide, and the depth at which it was discovered suggests that this spiral is older than that and can be considered the oldest gold on Earth. This is also evident in the technique of making the spiral. In the case of the objects discovered during the previous excavations and in Hotnitsa and in the Varna Chalcolithic necropolis, the manufacturing technique was by drawing, and in the latter by hammering the metal 23.5 carats of pure natural gold. Stone axes, needles for sewing skins, ritual bowls and figures of the Mother Goddess are among the objects found in the area of the village of Hotnitsa. Or as the discoverer of the oldest gold in the world from the settlement mound near the village of Hotnitsa in Veliko Tarnovo. Association. Chokardzev says, 7,000 years ago, people traveled a lot and did not know stress. In Hotnitsa, for the first time, gold was found in its true environment, and not in graves and necropolises. People lived and the ornaments were on them and they used them in everyday life. Nikola Angelov is the archaeology WHO found the Hotnish Golden Treasure in 1957. The excavations he made are regular and one of the first in Bulgaria using modern methodology. The fact that the find is not accidental makes it even more interesting for archaeologists. A year before Nikola Angelov made this remarkable discovery, the mound in question turned out to be part of a cultivated field. The people who worked there with agricultural machinery noticed that many clay vessels were coming out of the ground and handed them over to the district museum in Veliko Tarnovo. This is how the studies began in 1956, says Alexander Chokardzev. Nikola Angelov's task was to excavate the surface layer, and when he started to work, he came across the remains of 20 dwellings from the late Chalcolithic, Stone Copper Age, approximately 4200–4100 BC. This is the time just before the Thracians settled on our lands. For several years, Nikola Angelov was able to study practically the entire village and establish the end of the life of this mound. The archaeologist came across unburied skeletons, presumably killed in this latest attack. And it was so sudden and destructive that people could not hide. However, the attack was not aimed at looting, because the remains that the earth has hidden are great. There came out incredible objects, unique to the world in general, copper knives. Nikola Angelov recorded the place where he found the gold as building number 4. The archaeologist persistently insisted that this was not a dwelling. And he was right. Building number 4 is a mystery. It is in the middle of the settlement and is the only building with a square shape 4.5 by 4.5 meters. The apartments are rectangular in shape and usually 6 by 8 meters in size, explains Alexander Chokardzev. And he adds that in the building where the property was hidden, his colleague did not find either a furnace or a chromel for manually grinding grain. Therefore, it is quite possible that we are talking about a cult building or a temple. However, This is also one of the reasons why Sasho Chokardzev does not strongly agree with Nikola Angelov's thesis that the gold objects are parts of a necklace. They may have been part of a garment that was used in some kind of ritual activity. It is strange, even more so, that the building itself, apart from being completely different from the others, is unique in itself. The separate room has a separate internal space. The building is divided into a northern and a southern part. And the treasure was found in the northern part, the archaeologist said. In the 4 plates, one sees a human face because the holes are shaped to create the illusion of a face. But Alexander Chokardzev admits that no matter how much he stares, he does not see a face. You know, what's more interesting is that these 4 plates are the same thickness. They were probably made from a single sheet. And probably their shape was very important, because we have come across the same objects, but made of clay. That's why I think it's not just about a piece of jewelry, but about elements of a complex related to ritual activity, adds the archaeologist. Can we date the treasure correctly? On the issue of dating, Alexander Chokardzev makes a small digression. And he explains that before he started working in Hotnitsa, Nikola Angelov studied a settlement mound in Rus together with Professor Georgy Georgiev. The professor appears in this story because he is the author of the Karanov periodization system, which is still used by archaeologists around the world to date prehistoric times. In prehistory, each discovery bears the name of the nearest modern settlement. It is the same with Hotnoshkoto. Professor Georgiev studied a mound in Karanovo near Nova Zagora. There he distinguishes 7 strata from the 3 epochs in prehistory. Until now, every archaeologist who hears, for example, Karanovo I and II, knows that it is an early Neolithic. The professor published his chronological system in 1959, which is still valid, albeit with some corrections based on new discoveries. Perhaps a year before the professor made his periodization known to the whole world, Nikola Angelov published his discovery and dated the Hotnish gold according to Professor Georgiev's system. According to this periodization, the Hotnish gold hoard is from the Karanovo V stage or approximately 4300–4100 B.C. There is no foolproof dating method. And the gold can't be dated either. So we use the charcoal remains that we found along it and decide that the gold is from that time as well. Moreover, until recently we were working with the widespread radiocarbon method. And now there is a newer methodology that pulls all the dates back about 200 years. The method is known as AMS, accelerator mass spectrometry. But we still don't know which one is more accurate, says Alexander Chokardzev. And he clarifies that if everything around the treasure is approximately 4,200 years old, the gold is only that old by presumption. But the objects may be at least 100 or 200 years older because they may have been passed down from generation to generation. That's why he doesn't like arguing about which gold is older, the one in Hotnitsa or the one in Varna. I'm not a fan of local chauvinism because I'm fair to science. The truth is that whatever objects we found in Hotnitsa are also in Varna. The two evils fought at the same time for approximately 300–400 AD. The context in which they are found is different. The building in which the Hotnish treasure was housed is older than the graves in Varna. But who can say exactly how Tsar? Alexander Chokardzev shrugs and adds that for him it is more important that they come from Bulgaria. These two examples of earliest gold processing in human history. And he admits that he sincerely regrets that the Hotnish treasure just wasn't lucky enough to get good PR. It was found in the years when Bulgaria was closed to the rest of the world. And it did not receive a wide international response, unlike the treasures in the Varna necropolis, which immediately after their discovery became an international sensation. The other thing he laments is that the original is not with us. It is preserved in the National History Museum, and tourists can see a copy in the Tarnovo Archaeological Museum. The Lukovac silver hoard is dated to the second part of the 4th century BC. It was discovered by accident in 1953 near Lukovac by a local farmer in 1953. It was supplemented in 1955 and 1968. It consists of two groups of objects: plates, appliques for horse harness, and dishes, 9 dishes of which 5 phials, 3 jugs and 1 bowl. The objects are made of silver and in places some of them are gilded in order to enhance the artistic images and to emphasize the decoration. The phials and the bowl are richly decorated with ornaments depicting plant forms, human heads and other artistic elements. Images of animals are often found on plate applications: lion, griffin, dog, deer, etc. There are also images of horsemen, which are very characteristic of Thracian art. On 2 plates from the Lukovac hoard, a lion attacking a deer is depicted, falling to its knees under the weight of the predator. In the 3rd plate, Two horsemen are chasing lions, which, having already caught up, fall under the horses' hooves. These scenes in Thracian art also have a certain social meaning. They are associated with the aggrandizement of royal power. The rulers and their retinues spread by all possible means the legends of their extraordinary divine origin. And even with the decoration of the horse's harness made the ordinary subjects believe in it and obey them. One of the largest and most lavishly decorated files from the Lukovyt hoard is, unfortunately, in very poor condition. Most of the neck is missing. But the bottom shows how rich the decorative design of the master was. Three concentric bands of tongue ornament separate the main structural parts from each other. The decoration is composed of alternating convex, almonds, or eggs, and palmettes, joined to each other by volutes. There are 6 elements on the bottom, and twice as many on the body. The mouth ends with a turned-down border decorated with gilded pearls and ovules. The neck is separated from the body by an indented gilt strip. The umbo at the bottom of the cup is framed in the same way. 2 isosceles triangles are engraved on the neck. This ornament has a very old history. It is found on vessels from the Iron Age. Images of animals are often found on plate applications: lion, griffin, dog, deer, etc. There are also images of horsemen, which are very characteristic of Thracian art. The earliest traces of human life on the territory of Lukovyt municipality date from 2 to 3,000 years before the new era. Thracians, Romans, and Bulgarians lived on these lands, as evidenced by the discovery of bracelets and bronze axes, coins, pieces of pottery, jewelry, parts of stone columns, hand mills, and others. The several silver treasures found in this area from Letnitsa, Alexandrovo, Vladimir, etc., testify to the exceptional wealth of the local Thracian dynasties and tribal aristocracy during the early Hellenistic era. The silver treasure from the town of Lukovyt is located in the National Archaeological Museum in Sofia, and a copy of it is in the Museum of the town of Lovech. The treasure from Duvanli, Plovdiv region, Bulgaria was found in 5 mounds out of a total of 29 of the large ritual complex. Some of the objects found here from the 6th–5th century BC find their parallels in the works of Homer. In the 10th canto of the Iliad, if you wish to slip into the Trojan camp. Yonder are the soon-arrived Thracians, stationed at last by all. Among them is King Rez, son of Ionius. I saw his horses, fairest and largest, whiter than snow, swift as a whirlwind. His chariot is beautifully decorated with gold and silver. He came with weapons, golden, huge, wonderful to see. It is not like mortal men to wear them, but immortal gods. The amphora from Kakuva mound of the Odrysian royal necropolis near Duvanli is made of silver with gilding. It has a height of 27 centimeters, weighs 1,344 grams and is dated to the 6th century BC. The neck of the amphora is separated from the spherical body by a belt of ovals, and at the bottom is a 27-leaf rosette. The handles of the amphora are shaped like monsters with backwards lion heads. They have pointed ears and large curved horns, which in one of the monsters are broken off. Their shoulders are stylized as a figure 8, and their tails end in fan-shaped tufts of hair. The front legs are three-dimensional. Their muscles are stylized as a lotus flower, and the ribs are given the shape of a slightly curved multi-leafed palmetto. The hind legs of the monsters have stepped on a high tambour. A spout for pouring the liquid is placed on one of the handles. The Rhyton amphora from Kukova mound, Duvanli is made of silver with gilding. Casting, hammering, joining handles to body. Partial gilding. Height 13.4 centimeters. Inventory of a male burial in a sarcophagus-like grave in Kukova Mogola, Duvanli necropolis. An egg-shaped body from which a long neck tapers in the middle. 2 handles, one of which has a long spout. The neck is relatively short and narrows in the middle, the mouth protrudes outward. The handles are shaped like 2 lion griffins with wings attached to the body and heads turned back. With their front paws they have stepped on the mouth. The neck is separated from the body by a nodule strip. The body is decorated with 3 horizontal friezes. On the shoulders we see alternating lotus blossoms and palmettes, joined at the base and facing downwards. Next is a strip of incision, under which this same frieze passes, but mirror inverted in relation to the upper one. Below it are vertical grooves that reach the bottom. The style of the amphora is Achaemenid. Undoubtedly, a work of a very good Torvat, brought up in the spirit of Persian artistic traditions, which speaks for both the subject form itself and the stylization in the depiction of the ornaments and animals. A plot presents us with the winged lion griffin, which is characteristic of Eastern iconography and is especially common in the art of the Persians. Undoubtedly, the Persian influence is strongly expressed in the choice of subject form. Closest to the gold specimen from the Scythian find in Filipovka, finds from Iran and Asia Minor, and the specimen from the Panagyurishte Treasure. The file from the Bashova mound of the Odrysian royal necropolis near Duvanli is made of silver with gilding. It is 3 centimeters high, 20.5 centimeters in diameter, and weighs 428 grams. The file is dated to the 3rd quarter of the 5th century BC. On the inside, the vessel is decorated with 4 chariots engraved in gold. The chariots are depicted in a fast run with 1 charioteer and 1 warrior each. The charioteers are in long chitons, and one of them is draped with a mantle. The warriors are dressed in full battle gear: helmet, breastplate, knee pads and shield. 2 of them wear a Chalcidian, the 3rd a Corinthian, and the 4th a Thracian type of helmet. The shields are decorated with a horse, a lion and a centaur. The file is believed to represent a competition scene. The fighters are engraved in various poses. 1 is preparing to jump. 2 are standing on the axle of the chariot, and only the fighter with a Thracian helmet stands firmly with both feet on the floor of the chariot. The scene shows an Odrysian royal commission wherein the race within the race, the most likely winner is the Thracian team. The silver branch is gilt depicting 4 chariots. It was discovered in Bashova Mogila in the 4th–5th century BC. The kilosket from Bashova Mogila is made of silver with gilding. It has a height of 3 centimeters, a diameter of 13 centimeters, a weight of 220 grams, and is dated to the 3rd quarter of the 5th century BC. On the bottom, in a golden frame of laurel leaves, is engraved an image of a goddess riding an Amazonian horse, floating over a sea in which fish swim. The jug from Bashova mound is made of silver. It has a height of 8.6 centimeters, a diameter of 8.3 centimeters, a weight of 236 grams, dated to the 2nd half of the 5th century BC. The body of the jug is covered with grooves. An inscription in Thracian language with Greek letters, Dadaleme, can be seen at its mouth. 2 translations are possible in the Thracian language: Mother, Earth, Help, or Father, repel the evil forces. This inscription is also found on other dishes from the royal service and can be taken as typical for the Odrysians. It is found on vessels that were produced after 340 BC. The Rhyton with the protome of a horse from Bashova mound made of silver with gilding. The Rhyton has a height of 20.6 centimeters, a weight of 400 grams, and is dated to the 3rd quarter of the 5th century BC. The mouth of one of the most exquisite Rhytons is covered with pearls, and below it is engraved a frieze of alternating lotus flowers and palmettes connected by volutes. The body is decorated with vertical tongue-shaped grooves. They end in its lower part, shaped like the protome of a horse. The grooves are separated from the protome by a pearl girdle. The horse's breastplate, hooves and mane are gilded. The drinking hole is mounted on the horse's chest. The court has the same inscription in Greek. Cantharos from the great mound of the Odrysian royal necropolis near Duvanli. The height of the cantharos is 25.5 centimeters, weight 1073 grams, and it is dated around the middle of the 5th century BC. The vessel has a tall foot and highly curved handles that protrude from the mouth. To the mouth above the handles, the craftsman solders a silver head with an ivy wreath. Gilded scenes are engraved on the outside of the walls. In one scene, Dionysus can be seen walking to the left, and opposite him is a bacchanal walking with a doe in her hands. The scene has a good parallel with the Bacchanalian tragedy of Euripides, where the retinue of Agaba, daughter of the founder of Thebes Cadmus, is described. On the other side of the cantharos are represented a satyr and a bacchanal with a thyrsus in hand. The naked satyr is draped in the skin of a sacrificial doe and holds a thyrsus in his right hand. The scenes illustrate rites of the Dionysian cycle. Appliques for armor from the Great Mound, made of silver, 6.5 centimeters high and dated to the mid-5th century. 3 pieces with Nike appliques and 5 pieces with lion and gorgon appliques were found. They form a complete armor set. The gorgon is depicted in a Thracian form and differs from the Hellenic image of the gorgon. She does not inspire fear and terror, but is presented smiling and good-natured. A crescent-shaped breastplate made of pure gold with beveled edges and cut in the upper middle. At the ends, 2 holes for attachment to the garment. The field is framed by a band of printed freckles facing the hole inward. A large figure of a predator is located in the field. This is a lion, or rather, a dog. Undoubtedly the work of a local craftsman. The stylization of the mane like rhombuses, of the folds around the nose, as well as the rearing of the front paws with a common shoulder shaped like a stripe with rainbows is impressive. The tail curls between the hind legs. There is no doubt the influence of Eastern models. The predator is a zoomorphic image of the male warrior and he fits the status of the deceased ruler for whose burial the breastplate was made. A characteristic shape for the early breastplates found in Thrace. A close parallel is given by the specimen from Dalboki. Rectangular, part of the decoration of a vestry. Made of pure silver along with lion head and gorgon appliques. There is a hanging loop on top. The outwardly curved edge of the applique is framed with a row of negatively hammered pearls. A figural scene is represented in the field. A quadriga in which a female figure stands. The Greek master retains the characteristic of vase painting from the beginning of the 5th century BC. A frontal rendering of the chariot, allowing him to display his skill in mastering perspective. The middle horses have their heads turned towards each other, and the outer ones, outwards. The goddess of victory is standing frontally in the chariot, her head is turned to the right and she is holding out a wreath with her right hand. Behind her, the wings are spread out frontally. The musculature of the horses is accurately rendered in low relief. The craftsman accurately conveys the details of the horse armor. The chest strap is decorated in the center with a large round applique and smaller pearls on both sides. The psalms end with square tiles. The goddess has her hair in a bun. Nike is often depicted in Thracian art because of the goddess's association with military success. Nike is associated with Athena, the goddess of war. In fact, the laying of the wreath is a characteristic ritual act for plots of royal ideology, investiture and immortalization. In Thracian iconography, the image of Nike appears often: earrings from Varna, wreath from Malamirovo Zlatanitsa and others. The round part of the decoration of a vestry, made of pure silver, together with the appliques of the quadriga of Nike and the Gorgon. The applique is framed with a row of negatively hammered pearls. A lion's head is represented in the field. A local work, the master retains the mask character of the image. He stylizes the features of the head in a face, seen from above. According to the model imposed in the Thracian Taurutics of Achaemenid examples, the mane between the ears, the eyebrows connected to the nose, the folds under the nose. The full face is characteristic of the representation of predatory animals. The lion is the main and most worthy antagonist of the hero as a trial, and often replaces him in a zoomorphic code as a metaphor for his power. In Thracian iconography, the image of the lion as a separate head in a face is widespread. Compare with the appliques from Dolna Koznitsa, Lukovac and Malkata Mogila. The circular part of the vestry decoration, along with the appliques with the quadriga of Nike and lion heads. The applique is framed with a profiled lace-like ornament. The Gorgon is represented in the field. A Greek work. The master retains the masked nature of the Gorgon. He stylizes the features, as if to show that before us is an image alien to nature. A certain grotesqueness shines through. Accurate rendering of details regardless of stylization. Medusa is the mortal of the three Gorgon sisters. Their gaze petrifies people. They are among the mythical female adversaries of the hero on his path of initiation. Perseus, with the help of Athena, cuts off the head of the sleeping monster and presents it to the goddess, who hangs it on her auspices. The full face, the wide-open eyes, the sticking-out tongue, the wrinkles above the forehead testify to the tension of the image. In it, as in any mask, the inner is exteriorized. The goal is to instill terror in the enemy, which is why very often the objects of protective armament, and also of chariots, compare with the chariot of Rhesus, described by Euripides, are decorated with the image of Medusa. It also serves as an apotropaion. In Thracian iconography, the Gorgonion appears on the Esse Christi from Chernozem. In breastplates from Mezek and Varbitsa, in the sculptural program of the tombs from Strelcha, Sveshtari and Golyama Kosmatka. The elliptical tile with truncated ends made of pure gold. At the ends there are two holes for attaching to the garment, through which pass gold fibulae, from which hang 3 acorns on chains. The field is bordered by a band of stamped figures of doves with their wings turned inwards. The birds seem to be walking in a ceremonial procession. The dove is a bird of Aphrodite, and the number 8 is also associated with the numerical code of the goddess. If the burial is indeed female, then the presence of this image in the main decoration of the buried woman is explainable. On the other hand, the priestesses in the oracle of Zeus at Dodona were called doves. Considering that the pendants on the breastplate are in the shape of an acorn, which signifies the fruit of the sacred oak of Zeus in this sanctuary, a similar semantic connection could be assumed. The mesomphalos file found in Kukova Mound Duvanli forged from pure silver with a diameter of 26 centimeters, a height of 6 inches and 6 centimeters and a weight of 120 grams. Female burial. Cremation. Sarcophagus-like masonry grave. The beads are of two types with different sizes and shapes. The large ones are round and hemispherical, and the small ones are biconical. The large beads have triangular shapes with filigree and a rosette at the tip. The central bead, made of pure gold, is soldered to a horizontal tube for the chain. It has the most refined execution of filigree in the form of a strip from which 5 triangles emerge, and in the center, a 4-leaf rosette with a pearl. A small rosette is also soldered to one of the holders that the chain runs through. The biconic beads are surrounded by a band of pearl filigree, a characteristic form of necklace for Thrace. It finds parallels in the ornaments from Mushovitsa, the small mound near Shipka, and the V. collection. The treasure from Duvanli, Bulgaria is kept in the National History Museum in Sofia.